Yeah.
Doctor, is there anything the average citizen can do to protect himself from the ravages of the rising inflation?
Unfortunately, there is very, very little he can do. I hate to say this, and yet it's true. The most effective protection against inflation is high living.
How do you mean that? How do you mean that?
I mean that, unfortunately, there are no assets which you can confidently acquire with the expectation that they will provide you a hedge against inflation. On the other hand, if you buy yourself a nice house, you buy yourself a nice suit, you buy yourself a picture to hang on the wall, you are protected against the ravages of inflation.
So, in other words, convert your money into material things?
Unfortunately, it's not a very desirable thing to do. Don't convert all of it. You've got to have some reserve for emergency. I'm not saying this is a good thing. I'm saying that inflation is the kind of thing which leaves you with no good choices.
But that sounds like playing the violin while Rome is burning.
Well, tell me the alternative. The question was not what the nation ought to do.
Yeah.
I have no difficulty in saying what our governmental policy ought to be to end inflation. That's a different question. The question is, what can I as an individual do? And unfortunately, given the uncertainty of inflation, given the fact that real estate has proved a good hedge and it's proved a bad hedge, that stocks have proved a good hedge and they've proved a bad hedge, that government bonds are a snare and a delusion, that they have proved a very, very poor investment for the poor suckers who were induced by Uncle Sam to come into them. Unfortunately, there is no good way in which the ordinary citizen, the ordinary person, can really protect his assets against inflation.
Dr. Fried, what does the average citizen do to help the inflation or to fight it?
As a citizen, you can do a great deal. As a citizen, you can exercise your influence on your congressman at the elections to try to elect people who are committed to cutting government spending. As you may know, a group of us have been working for a long time on constitutional amendments to set a limit to total spending. Such amendments have now been passed in 5 states. We're working on a federal amendment, an amendment of the federal Constitution that would give the federal government a budget. I think the most important single step that can be taken to stop inflation is to cut down government spending. And you can play a role in that. Your personal life, you cannot do a thing, and don't let anybody kid you. We don't create inflation by our personal behavior. We create inflation by getting our legislators, the people in Washington, to vote for more and more spending, and by objecting to extra taxes, and therefore by having it financed by printing money. Prior one. And until the American people have the political will to stop it, that's going to continue.
Now, give us the will. Tell us how we get that will.
There's only one way you can stop inflation, and that's by having the government create less money and spend less money.
Doctor, is there anything the average citizen can do to protect himself from the ravages of the rising inflation?
Unfortunately, there is very, very little he can do. I hate to say this, and yet it's true. The most effective protection against inflation is high living.
How do you mean that? How do you mean that?